Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, so I had to start the stream again. I'm always forgetting to unmute my microphone. So I forget my head sometimes if I wasn't half-ass attached. So I just, thank you for still tuning in. Let's try this again. Take two. Truck driver dies. Now you can hear what I'm saying instead of just watching my mouth move and no audio coming out. So truck driver dies after passing out behind the wheel, sparking chain reaction crash. In this article, a truck driver passed away after passing out behind the wheel during a medical emergency and causing a chain reaction crash. This accident happened in northeast Dallas, Texas, around the 21st of July. According to the local news, the truck driver was operating a flatbed, hauling pipe when he passed out behind the wheel. Flatbed semi then crashed into a second semi truck, a car, a bus, and a box truck. Total of 7 people were injured in the crash. 5 of those victims sustained non-life-threatening injuries, and 1 was determined to be critical but in stable condition. The truck driver passed away after he was taken to the hospital. The crash is still under investigation, but police officers believe that the driver suffered a medical emergency leading to his passing out behind the wheel, which then did cause this crash. And 18 eastern states to partner for a campaign to stop, or they did partner for a campaign to stop bridge strikes on the East Coast. According to a coalition of 18 states, they came together for a campaign to stop vehicles of hitting low clearance bridges. This happened July 22nd through July 26th. 18 member states of the Eastern Transportation Coalition took part in a Check Your Height, Know It's Right educational campaign intended to curb bridge strikes. The campaign reminds drivers to know the height of their vehicles and to comply with posted bridge clearance signs. Don't be tunnel vision and not watching out for signs, and know the height of your vehicle. Most semis are 13 feet 6 inches, so you're definitely not going to fit under a 10-foot 9-inch bridge. You got 3 foot almost that, you're too tall. And don't be following Google Maps. Don't be following GPS. Learn how to get yourself a paper atlas, a trucking atlas. They list every route in the front of the atlas. Open it up. List every route, every low bridge, especially around Chicago. It's notorious for having low bridges or building up the road and then not changing the signs on the bridge. And you're just going to creep under. Like this gentleman just started to creep under the bridge, and it's a low train trestle. But back to the article. The campaign targeted all types of drivers, and also let's not forget people pulling RVs, these big motor coaches. Know the height of your vehicle before gonna go out on your trip. Kentucky Transportation provided the following tips to help drivers avoid bridge strikes. Measure the vehicle. If hauling equipment or livestock, check the trailer and load height. Don't rely, like I said, on GPS, and ensure dump truck beds are lowered before going under a bridge. There is a bunch of states that are in this coalition that I'm not going to read because the list is quite lengthy. And in this story, truckers buried underneath bales of paper that broke through the front of a trailer during a crash. Now, these bales of shredded paper don't look very big, but the bales themselves are huge. And they're about 1,000 to 2,000 pounds apiece, so he's lucky he's still alive. Truck drivers buried under bales of paper that broke through after the load broke through the front of his trailer during an early morning crash. The accident happened July 23rd in Fond du Lac County on Highway 151. know that highway well. Police were called by a passing motorist who saw the semi leave northbound Highway 151 near the ramp to South Main Street and go into a roadside ditch. Caller told emergency services that they were unable to check on the driver because the truck cab was so severely damaged. When police officers arrived at the scene, two Good Samaritans were attempting to help the trucker, who was buried under bales of paper after they broke through the front of his trailer. First responders helped them move the cargo in order to reach the driver, and 60-year-old truck driver was then transported by ambulance to a nearby hospital, where then he was flown to a secondary hospital with serious injuries. Yeah, he could have got crushed, or did get crushed. The police investigation revealed that he was attempting to exit Highway 151 at South Main Street, and he overshot the turn. He was going too fast, just plain and simple. And when you come to a sudden stop, all the cargo slides forward, and that trailer is just made out of aluminum. You got several thousand pounds of paper and that much force. Nothing's going to hold it back, really. And it broke through, and he's lucky to be alive. And in this story, 130 truckers and mechanics to be laid off in Arizona. 130 drivers and mechanics will lose their jobs by the end of summer after failed Teamsters negotiations with Kroger led to a canceled contract. Vice President of the Teamsters Local 104, Josh Graves, says that the Teamsters had a contract with Ruin Transport, which contracted with Kroger to hire truck drivers and diesel mechanics at a Kroger warehouse in Tolleson, Arizona. Been there. A 3-year contract between Ruin and Kroger was signed back in 2023, which included a clause allowing Kroger to exit the contract with a 90-day notice. In July last month, Teamsters Union was notified that Kroger had chosen to cancel the contract with Ruin and soon will be working with Swift instead. I'm sure, now my personal opinion, I'm sure that Swift came in, saw that the contract was, only got another year left, really, and went ahead and underbid the Ruin, and then went ahead and got the contract. Teamsters at Ruin has since offered concessions to Kroger in an attempt to keep the contract, but their offers were not accepted. The notice filed by Ruin lists a total of 144 people that will soon lose their jobs. The Arizona senator said that I'm concerned with your recent decision to terminate your long-standing relationship with Ruin Transportation, an action that puts good-paying jobs at risk and impacts the community stability. Kroger had previously attempted to displace union workers, but ultimately failed under the scrutiny of workers and the public alike. The latest decision appears to be another attempt to undermine Teamsters Local 104 and circumvent the collective bargaining process. They don't want to. Swift isn't union. So apparently Kroger didn't want the union in there anymore. Can't really blame them. But that's just my personal opinion. And after careful consideration, we've decided to transition a portion of our transportation services to Swift. They're a Phoenix-based carrier and help minimize disruption for all parties and maintain the high standards our associates and customers expect. We've identified a tiered transition plan. They're saying that some of the employees that were affected by this that worked at the distribution center at Kroger for 26 years or more. So, time to retire. I mentioned that at my age of 61, it's hard for me to go ahead and find new employment. I have 4 years left before my retirement and, minimum retirement. And I've applied a bunch of different places. They won't even give me the courtesy to turn around and respond saying, thank you, received your application. We'll keep it on file. Should we be hiring in the future? Just something. And no, not even a word. Not one word about, anything. So that's, the hiring processes nowadays. And in this story, over 2,000 violations uncovered by Arizona Commercial Vehicle Enforcement. The Arizona Public Safety and Highway Patrol released the results of their Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance Operation Safe Driver Week that took place, July 13th through the 19th, targeting commercial vehicle and passenger vehicles. And we're looking for violations like speeding, distracted driving, and commercial motor vehicle violations. The total contacts were 633. Total inspections, 619. Total DVER violations, 2,098. Drivers placed out of service, 100. Vehicles were placed out of service, 150. So you have 100 drivers placed out of service, but yet 150 vehicles placed out of service? How come the numbers don't compute? So if you could compute the numbers, leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can even comment in the chat if you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitch. I'm also on there. And what's the 50 driver discrepancy compared to the 150 vehicles placed out of service, but yet 100 drivers? So then what did 50 drivers do because their vehicle was placed out of service? Unless they had to get repairs done. That could have been if they had a flat tire or something. What's your comment? Leave a comment below. Anyways, back hazmat inspections are 41. Restraint citations, not wearing a seatbelt, 19. And citations overall, 114. And up next, FMCSA officially withdraws speed limiter rules for heavy trucks. About time. The trucking industry has been fighting speed limiters for decades. And finally, somebody's in that office that got smart that said, look, we're not going to be doing it. Because the youngsters that were born after the 90s, you don't remember when speed limits, like California at 55 miles an hour, Ohio and Illinois had the same thing. 55 miles an hour for trucks, but everybody else could go 65. Speed limiters near you being in cars. Just because the speed limit is 80 miles an hour out west, New Mexico, Arizona, out in the Dakotas, doesn't mean you have to go 130, 140. Do that on a track someplace. My opinion, cars need to have speed limiters on them. Not semis. Semis, you got a heck of a time pulling a hill as it is. You need to turn around and work the hills. That you got to get a good run. And there again, you don't have to be doing 100 down a hill to get up the other side because of the weight shift and everything. So, yeah. FMCSA, let's get to the article, officially withdraws speed limiters. Has withdrawn a proposed rule that will require speed limiter devices on heavy trucks. This was a notice. A notice is always published in the Federal Register anytime this agency, which is Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, is an agency of the government, that they're going to propose to do something. Okay? They withdrew 2016 notice of proposed rulemaking to require heavy-duty trucks be equipped with speed limiter device that would have governed the truck at a speed determined by federal officials, 65. So you're all four-wheelers, cars, people that drive cars, are always complaining and being aggravated when two trucks are going down the road at both 65 miles an hour. And nobody's passing anybody. And they're kind of pacing each other. So, it just... everybody gets aggravated. So if you could imagine if that's mandatory, that all trucks were 65 and nobody could pass anybody, what a line of bull hockey. The rule withdrawal follows up on efforts made under the Trump administration to deregulate trucking and to improve the lives of American truck drivers. In late June of this year, Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy rolled out the pro-trucker package that I discussed in episode 149 of initiatives designed to support the trucking industry, with includes a promise to withdraw speed limiter rulemaking. In explaining the decision to withdraw the speed limiter rule, FMCSA pointed to a 2022 advance notice of supplemental proposed rulemaking that indicated the agency's intention to move forward with speed limiter rulemaking. It's also called for public comment on a plan to require motor carriers to limit speeds for certain motor vehicles operated in interstate commerce that were already equipped with an electronic engine control unit, ECU, capable of setting the speed limits. The maximum speed of affected CMVs was to be determined by the rulemaking, and motor carriers would have been required to maintain that maximum speed in that electronic ECU computer unit for the service life of the vehicle, like forever. You could never shut it off. Of the 15,638 comments received, approximately 300 supported moving ahead with speed limiter rulemaking, while over 15,000 comments opposed the speed limiter rule. Several commenters included the owner-operator and independent OOIDA Drivers Association indicated that limiting a truck speed would have adverse impacts on drivers' incomes because reducing travel speeds would reduce the number of miles traveled as well as the number of pickups and deliveries. And you're always going to be late for an appointment. Other commenter issues included higher fuel costs, impact to driver well-being, and ease of parking due to additional hours a driver must have to spend driving to complete that task, and having to start early in the morning and drive until you could find a place to park. Because, of course, anybody that drove over the road, you know now that truck stops are filling up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, no matter what part of the country you're in, where before it was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So officials ultimately conducted that there was no compelling data showing that the speed limiter rule would have increased highway safety. So after all these studies since 2016, almost 10 years of studying this issue, they finally figured out that it wasn't gonna promote highway safety. You know, so it's about time. So the article goes on. I'm not going to continue on it, but thank goodness somebody finally came to their senses on this issue. Again, my opinion. And a Florida man is guilty of interstate scheme to steal big rigs loaded with millions of dollars in electronics from southern Indiana and other states. 2 brothers were indicted following the seizure of a historical amount of illegal drugs from a semi-truck operating in South Carolina. Oh, wait a second. Grabbed the wrong one. Sorry, let me redact that. All right, so Florida man guilty of interstate scheme. The one I just got done talking about, but the 2 brothers, that's the next story. A federal jury in Indiana found a Florida man guilty of taking part in a wide-ranging interstate cargo theft scheme targeting truckers hauling goods for national companies like Meta, Microsoft, and L Brands. Juan D. Perez Gonzalez, 51, has been found guilty on charges of conspiracy, possession of goods stolen from interstate commerce, interstate transportation of stolen property, according to a July 23rd statement. 5 co-conspirators previously pled guilty to participating in the same cargo theft scheme. Officials say that between December of 2021 and May of 2023, Gonzalez and his co-conspirators conspired to steal semi-trucks loaded with high-end electronics and other items in southern Indiana and other states, transported the stolen cargo to Florida, which was then sold at a discounted rate. Let me read from the U.S. Attorney's Office describes this cargo theft operation. I'll try to make this brief. The co-conspirators traveled from various locations, including Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, to target various distribution facilities used by national companies such as Meta, Microsoft, and L Brands. The group surveilled these facilities, followed semi trailers as they departed. When a driver stopped to rest, refuel, or park, the conspirators stole the entire semi. In many instances, the group abandoned the stolen semi nearby and reattached the tractor part and then reattached it with a different truck to the same trailer they operated to evade law enforcement. They painted over logos and identifying numbers and used different license plates on the stolen trailers. So this was a pretty well thought out scheme. They transported stolen cargo to Miami, Florida, where it was then sold to buyers, including this co-defendant, Richard Alameda, for a fraction of the inventory's retail value. The group carried out at least 14 separate cargo thefts, resulting in the theft of over $2 million in virtual reality headsets from Meta facility, Oculus, $940,000 in Microsoft products, $1 million in Body Works and Victoria's Secret merchandise, and $669,000 in Harman JBL audio products, $180,000 in Logitech products, $480,000 worth of Bose audio speakers, among other stolen items. Officials say that this is the third time that Gonzalez has been convicted on a federal charge of cargo theft. Do you think he's ever going to learn? I'm curious if he's a U.S. citizen or not. If he's not, deport his ass. He's just going to turn around and crawl back over to the border anyway. This case was investigated by the FBI. I can't talk. Indiana State Police and Kentucky State Police. Now hold on a second. One second, please. Here we go. I had to change. I put the wrong doggone screen up on this one, so I had to change that real quick. So sorry about that. And in this story, a DEA nabs. This is what happens with live. You know? So, sorry. Thanks for your patience, everybody. So, DEA nabs two brothers using a big rig to haul the largest amount of fentanyl ever seized in South Carolina history. Two brothers have been indicted following the seizure of an historic amount of illegal drugs from a semi-truck operating in South Carolina. This happened July 22nd. They were both from California. They were indicted on charges of conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute fentanyl and meth, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The charges stem from a pair of coordinated traffic stops in Lexington and Richland counties conducted on July 1st by DEA agents. They report, quote, inside a tractor trailer that was transporting products with a legitimate business purpose, law enforcement also found large packages of illegal narcotics. The two brothers operating the semi were arrested following the traffic stop. Law enforcement seized 156 pounds of fentanyl and 44 pounds of meth in total from the semi. The drugs are believed to have been sourced from Mexico. U.S. Attorney's Office said that this is believed to be the largest seizure of fentanyl in South Carolina history. He said this isn't just a drug bust, it's life-saving intervention on an unprecedented scale for their state. Law enforcement has been working together at every level to keep South Carolina safe, and we're committed to dismantling the criminal networks that bring this poison into our communities. Um, and they go on and on and on how they, what can I say, their press people like to talk about what their office does and this kind of thing. So now let's take a short commercial break.
Exposing the myth that success is all about talent or luck. You need to watch this if you've ever wanted to give up on your dreams. The real secret ingredient? Perseverance. Let's be real. Everyone hits a wall at some point. Maybe you've failed a test, been rejected from a job, or watched a dream slip through your fingers. Here's the thing. Everyone fails. What matters is what you do next. Did you know Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb? Or that J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon? The truth is, perseverance is the common thread in every great success story. Think of perseverance as your superpower. It's what keeps you moving when things get tough, what helps you learn from mistakes, and what turns setbacks into comebacks. The best part? Perseverance isn't something you're born with. You build it, moment by moment, every time you refuse to quit. So next time life knocks you down, remember this. It's not about how many times you fall. It's about getting back up, again and again. Because the power of perseverance isn't just about reaching your goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who never gives up on themselves. So whatever you're facing today, don't quit. Keep going. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner.
So you can get my new book, The Power of Perseverance, Achieving Goals Despite the Odds. Look for it on Amazon and Kindle. Now let's get back to the news. A trucker reports seeing a body floating in Missouri River. A trucker called police after noticing a body in the Missouri River while riding as a passenger. Kansas City Police Department was called just after 1:30 in the afternoon near Kansas City, Missouri on July 22nd. According to the local news, a truck driver passenger told officers that he spotted a body floating in the Missouri River from the passenger seat of a semi-cab as the rig headed north on Interstate 435. You have to have damn good eyes, because I've been around 435. You have to have damn good eyes in order to see a body floating in the river. Police responded to the call and discovered the body on the riverbank near the I-435 bridge. Missing persons unit, crime scene investigators, and a medical examiner were all called to the scene. At the time of the writing of the article, the identity of the person had not yet been released. The cause of death was not determined at the time, and this investigation is ongoing. And troopers are investigating a cause of a double fatality pileup on I-95 in South Carolina involving 7 commercial vehicles and 9 cars. This is our top story. As you see here, you're going to see my, I don't know if you could see my cursor. Possibly not. But you see the Load King. I'll try to describe it for people that are listening to this via audio. There is a semi-truck Load King. There is a pickup truck inside the back doors of the semi-truck in midair on the driver's side in their sideways. There's another pickup truck hauling a rocking chair that crashed behind the pickup truck, and looks like a flatbed truck that crashed into the back of that same Load King semi. This happened in South Carolina, and investigating a multiple fatality pileup crash that happened July the 22nd on I-95. The initial collision involved 3 vehicles, including 1 semi. A short time later, a second collision occurred at the same location involving 13 vehicles, 6 of those being semis. 2 people passed away in the crash, and 9 others were hospitalized, all with various injuries. Yeah, the blue that you see there. Oops. That's the second part of the crash. That's the second part of the crash. That's all that pileup. According to the agency Fire Rescue, the crash occurred amid a heavy rainstorm, and motorists reported near zero visibility. The accident involved several vehicles that were piled on top of each other. One semi-truck was hauling sheets of glass, plate glass, which was expelled onto the highway. Responders had to work hard. A workaround broke a glass in some areas 2 feet deep. One victim was trapped in a small passenger car underneath the pile of vehicles. A truck driver whose cab was completely demolished was trapped in the remnants of his cab, and 2 victims were trapped in a pickup truck that was 10 feet in the air. That was this first picture that I showed you. That was 10 feet in the air. Crashed into the rear of the semi-trailer. A victim of one vehicle on the bridge fell off the bridge and into the river below, trying to escape his car. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was able to swim to the bank before rescuers arrived. And of course, this crash is under investigation. And in this story, a family wants answers after a woman's body was found severely decomposed behind a Tennessee truck stop and motel. This motel is off of Interstate 24. Family seeking answers after a woman was found decomposed behind a Tennessee truck stop and motel. Alicia Wolf's body, this lady here, was found behind the I-24 truck and auto plaza, which connects the Truckers Inn off of Interstate 24 in Manchester, Tennessee. They found her July 14th. According to the local news, Emily Wolf's mother last heard from her on the 11th. The following Monday, as Emily was working to file a missing persons report, police notified Wolf's daughter, Aaliyah, that Wolf had been found deceased behind the truck stop and motel. Tennessee location is approximately 600 miles from Orlando, Florida, where she was last seen. Quote, someone says they saw her get into a black car, and then a second person said they saw her get into a white semi-truck, Emily said, her mother. Authorities say they are investigating the death as a homicide, but are awaiting the report from the medical examiner to determine the cause of death. Investigators say the decomposition of the body is making the cause of death difficult to determine. Aaliyah says that Wolf struggled with addiction and worked as a street worker, but she was a good person. She said, I want to know what happened, like who did this to my mom and why. And this is Alicia with her grandbaby. If you happen to know or have any information about this, I'm sure you could call the Tennessee State Police. They're around Manchester, Tennessee. That's another thing about this show. I don't necessarily just talk about regulations and about what's going on as far as drugs being seized or human trafficking or anything like that. I also talk about missing persons as well and try to help the families get closure for their loved one if they're missing. I try to keep things current on the homepage of our website at juliastruckingcafe.com. Also, take a moment and please like, share, and subscribe this podcast and help me get the word out there and help the algorithm on YouTube and Twitch for more people to be able to view the show. I want to take a moment and say that I greatly appreciate all my new subscribers. In the last week or two, I have over 100 new subscribers. So thank you so much for subscribing, liking, and sharing the podcast. And any new listeners on the audio side, we have made top 50 across the internet for trucking podcast. So thank you so much for everyone tuning in. As much as I could get this done, there again, as I retire, I will be able to do the show more of a consistent basis and pick a day, probably a Saturday night. I'm thinking 7, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night to do live streams, and that it will be like every Saturday night. So right now with working, I only have every other weekend off. So like today is my day off. So I figured I'd jump on here and do the live stream. But I have to work this weekend, so it can't be this Saturday. But anyway, thank you so much for all of your support, and let's get back to the news. 23.4 million in cocaine discovered in semi-truck crossing from U.S. into Canada. Border authorities stopped a commercial vehicle driver from hauling a large shipment of cocaine over the Canadian-U.S. border. The drug seizure took place back in May at the Ambassador Bridge. Officers encountered a commercial truck coming into Canada from the U.S. and referred the vehicle for a secondary inspection. While searching the trailer, the officers uncovered 2 suitcases and 5 garbage bags containing 161 bricks of suspected cocaine. The estimated street value of it is $23.4 million. The truck driver was an Ontario resident, 55 years old, was arrested and charged by Royal Canadian Mounted Police with importation of cocaine and possession. The incident was under investigation at the time. And there again, with the ongoing communication between the two countries, etc., etc., etc. And FMCSA in this story says no to teens restricted with K restriction licenses attending out-of-state trucking schools. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has denied a rural exemption request from a commercial driver's license school related to training truck driving students under 21 years of age who have restricted licenses. They announced in a notice to be published in the Register that I just got done talking about in the previous story that it will deny an exemption request from Michigan-based Bianco Trucking Services, which is a registered entry-level driver training provider. Bianco asked federal authorities for an exemption to allow students between the ages of 18 and 20 holding a K-restricted, intrastate-only commercial license learner permit issued by another state to attend their driving training facility in Michigan. So, for example, let me break this down. If you're in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, surrounding states of Michigan, or any other, and you're between 18 and 20 and you have a regular car license and you study for the written exam for a CDL and you get a learner permit, but it's only a K level, and you want to go to Michigan to their truck driving school, they want an exemption for you to attend. And Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is saying, no, we're not going to allow that. And explaining why the request was not approved, FMCSA said that a similar exemption request from 3 North LLC was denied in December of 2024. The agency agreed with the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators that allowing drivers with a, quote, K restriction to operate in states other than their home state or their domicile at would disrupt and confuse each state's use of the K restriction. They're trying to get around it is what they're trying to do. And You have to go through a driving school in the state where you have your license through. So I couldn't go up to Wisconsin. I got a Mississippi license. I couldn't go up to Wisconsin and go to their driving school. I'd have to take one in Mississippi, is what they're trying to say. The same reasoning applies to Bianco's request for an exemption. Furthermore, based on information provided by the applicant, FMCSA is unable to determine that the applicant would likely achieve a level of safety equivalent to or greater than the level obtained by complying with the said regulations. So it may not be strict enough, in other words. And if you look at this photo and on the screen, you will see the interstate, and look to the right of the interstate, you will see where it's like a trench. Well, look in the trees. That's a semi. And the semi made that trench. The semi truck blazed a trail through the woods on I-5 in a wreck and only had minor injuries. A semi truck blazed its own trail through the woods off of I-5 on Friday morning in a wreck that left the driver, with minor injuries. This happened in Washington State. According to the state trooper, the semi was heading south on I-5 when it veered off the interstate and skidded around 200 feet through the woods. The semi's trailer broke open in the process, spilling a load of pink soda cans. The state patrol says that the truck driver sustained only minor injuries, and officials shut down 2 lanes of the roadway as they worked to recover the semi from the newly blazed trail through the woods. And I'm sure it got buried up to the axles as well. No further information regarding the wreck was released at the time. And 6 passed away after a wreck that sent 2 cars beneath the semi and prompted a 5-hour rescue. 6 people passed away after 2 cars went underneath the semi, prompting a 5-hour rescue in North Carolina. This happened, of course, back in July. The crash happened on Interstate 485 around Charlotte. According to the local news, 16-year-old Paul Sawyer was driving a Honda when he moved into the right lane and collided with a Chrysler van driven by 27-year-old Samuel Holmes. The initial impact sent both cars crashing into the side of a semi-trailer where they became stuck. 5 of the 6 people inside the van were killed in the crash, including Holmes, a 23-year-old woman, and 3 children, 8 and younger. Sawyer was also killed in the crash. A 16-year-old girl was the sole surviving passenger of the van. She was transported to the hospital and treated for injuries. The truck driver was not hurt in the incident. First responders worked in dangerous heat conditions to conduct the 5-hour rescue. The rescue involved lifting the semi-trailer in order to remove both trapped vehicles. The outer loop of 485 was closed for several hours during this time. No charges are expected to be filed because both of the people that were driving the cars died. And nothing that the truck driver could do. When the guy with this Mr. Sawyer driving the Honda didn't look to the right, didn't turn his head to the right, just worried about looking in the mirror, moved over, there was a car right there, pushed him into underneath the semi. Well, or this way, because I keep forgetting the camera's backwards. And so, I mean, you're not going to blame the semi-truck driver over that. And a motorcyclist is killed after trying to pass between 2 semi-trucks on a New York interstate. New York State Police are investigating a fatal crash involving a motorcycle and 2 commercial vehicles that occurred around July 26th. Troopers say that 42-year-old New York resident was operating a 2001 Peterbilt semi in the driving lane when a truck tire blowout occurred. He slowed while looking for a safe place to pull off of I-81. As air slowed, Iowa-based truck driver Barbara L. Armstrong was driving a 2024 Peterbilt in the passing lane, overtaking errors. As the two semis occupied both lanes, a motorcycle operated by Austin Leonard, of 28 years of age, approached from behind and attempted to pass between the two trucks. So you got a truck over here and a truck over here, and here comes the motorcycle trying to pass in between the two. After passing the trucks, he lost control of the bike, struck the guardrail along the west shoulder, and was ejected from the bike. He later succumbed to his injuries and passed away. So he was going at a high rate of speed. The semi had a blowout. He was slowing down, trying to move over to get off the road safely. The truck, as he was slowing down, another truck tried to pass him. And here comes the motorcycle. Instead of slowing down, figure out what's going on, no, I'm going to go right down in between the two of them. How stupid can you be? I ride motorcycles. How dumb can you be? I'm sorry the guy passed away, but it was his own fault. And in this story, two motorists are pinned in two separate vehicles after a crash underneath the semi. Two people were pinned inside of two separate vehicles after a crash that sent one underneath the semi-trailer in New Mexico. This happened July 20th. According to Albuquerque Fire and Rescue, the cause of the crash has not been determined at the time of the writing of the article, but firefighters arrived to find a vehicle on fire that was pinned underneath the semi. One person was pinned inside, and one was extricated in 12 minutes as crews worked to extinguish the fire. That person sustained potentially life-threatening injuries. A third vehicle was also involved in the crash and came to a stop 50 yards away from the other crash site. The person who also had to be extricated from that vehicle with serious but not life-threatening injuries. It's unclear if the truck driver was injured, but no other injuries were reported but those two people. And at the time of the writing of the article, the cause of the wreck was not known. I was looking at the chat for just a second. There we go. Here I'm at. Sorry, I lost my place. It's just been a live stream. Oh, I haven't been doing this that long, and it's just been a heck of a live stream. And in this story, and I circled, you can see in the red circle in on the screen, that this is where the accident happened because there's so much going on in the picture, in the photograph, that you could see where the accident happened. Suspects flee armed with an AK. They don't say if it's a 47 or not. I'm sure it is. After a fatal crash with a bus on I-35. Interstate 35 was shut down overnight after suspects armed with an AK-style rifle fled a crash into a bus. This happened July 17th on I-35 near San Antonio, Texas. According to the local news, men in a Camaro led police on a high-speed chase along the interstate where they eventually crashed into the bus. Traffic cam and news footage of the scene show at least One semi was affected by the crash. The 4 suspects quickly fled the fatal crash scene. One of the men was reportedly armed with an AK-style rifle, though so they don't know for sure. 4 people were killed in the crash. 2 died at the scene, while 2 succumbed to their injuries later at the hospital. 13 other patients were taken to a nearby hospital off the bus. 2 of those patients are in critical condition. As of a couple of days later, or that night, people were still actively searching for the 4 suspects. And as of a few days later, a 5th person died as police continue to search for the small group of men who fled this crash scene. And that was, almost 5 days later. So this happened on Thursday. The following Tuesday, the men still were not found. Remaining 2 patients left at the hospital are in good and fair condition, respectively. And another safety week is coming, the end of this month. I also have that on the homepage of Julia's Trucking Cafe website. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance Driver Week enforcement effort is officially in the books, but the next major truck blitz is already right around the corner. It's the end of this month, August 24th through the 30th, so mark your calendars. August 24th through August 30th, last week of the month. Their Brake Safety Week inspection. The purpose of the inspection is enforcement to reduce commercial vehicle crashes caused by faulty brakes. The area emphasis will be drums and rotors, like this officer is crawling around underneath this Peterbilt. They'll be checking for cracks and how thin your shoes are, cracks in the drum, cracks in the shoes and the lining, cracks in pads, how thin the pads are. They can also check that now. They never used to be able to, but now drums also, semi trucks also have disc brakes now that they never used to, and they can check your pad lining and stuff as well. They'll be conducting these inspections, Canada, Mexico, and U.S. There was an unannounced brake safety day back in April, and they conducted 4,569 inspections and placed almost 400 of them out of service due to brake-related violations. So remember that. I will have it posted on the website August 24th through the 30th. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and for subscribing. Please, if you haven't done so, I have over 4,000 views on YouTube in the last month. So every one of you that hasn't subscribed, it's free. And if you have a YouTube account, just please mash the subscribe button, hit the like, hit the notification bell so that you can always know when I'm going to post a new episode. I'm also, each one of these articles, I'm turning into a clip. A lot of people don't want to sit and watch and don't have the time to watch the show for almost an hour. And so each article will be a clip on YouTube, so look for those. And then every clip, I'm doing a little bit of a short, a minute or two short, and viewers are liking those as well. So I am trying to do different types of versions or different types of videos to apply to a bunch of different people, because I know life is so busy and everybody's on the go all the time. So I'm trying to get to a bunch of different types of audience. So thank you so much again for tuning in. May you have a great week. Keep the shiny side up. And until next time.